One of the hardest relationships to detach from isn't the toxic one. It's the inconsistent one. The one who isn't entirely bad for you, but also was never fully there. The one that gives you just enough for you to stay, but not enough to make you feel secure. It keeps you in this cycle, it keeps you confused. Truth of the matter is, that kind of relationship is harder to detach from. That is a lot painful. You stayed with someone who never fully chose you. It's harder to detach from this. It's because the relationship wasn't abusive, it wasn't toxic, but also it wasn't loud, it wasn't sure. It wasn't clearly wrong, but it kept you suspended in the air. It kept you floating somewhere. And that's what makes detachment so hard. Because, truth be told, it's easy to leave someone if they have treated you badly. If someone treated you badly, it's obvious why you're leaving. If they were cruel, you have a permission to walk away that easy. But the thing is, they weren't cruel or bad to you entirely. And what if they weren't cruel? They were just confused. What if they showed up, but only sometimes? What if they cared, but not entirely consistent? What if the relationship felt meaningful, but it wasn't just stable? And that's where people, including yourself, get stuck. Not because you're weak, but because uncertainty is far more binding than rejection. When someone rejects you, it's clear to walk away from them because they don't want you at all. If someone is being toxic to you, then it's clear. If someone is entirely bad to you, it's clear to walk away from them. But the thing is, they were not. They were somewhere in between, and let's be honest, it's really hard to walk away from these type of dynamic, from these type of relationship where you're unsure whether it's entirely bad or just not enough. There's a fair reason why detaching from this kind of relationship is a lot harder from letting go something that's clearly unhealthy for you. It's because your brain doesn't bond more deeply with consistency. It is more attached to instability, to inconsistency. Let me break it down to you. Think of the principle of intermittent reinforcement. If you haven't studied psychology, it's like a mechanism that's familiar to a slot machine, right? When you play a slot machine, you'll never know when you will win. There's no certainty because the moment that you will win is unpredictable. So you pulled the lever again. You stayed more. You stayed for hours just for you to stay and expect to win. You'll never know. Even if you did, you would know when to step out. And that's the same principle in, let's say, relationship. You'll never know when someone is going to treat you right. So you will stay because they weren't entirely bad at all. They were just uncertain. And this is the moment where other people start to blame themselves. Why can't I just leave? Why can't I just detach myself? Why can't I just learn to walk away and be done? Because I know for sure that they are inconsistent. But as a matter of fact, we are a living dichotomy. We know that someone is being inconsistent to us, yet we still stay. You weren't attached because the relationship was deep. You were attached because the relationship felt unfinished. Because the relationship felt unresolved. And unresolved dynamics, they don't give you closure. They don't give you answers. They give you loops, cycles, a never ending confusion. And this is the type of dynamic that exists in situationships when you will never know if you're going to make it, when you will never know if it's going to be a real thing with them. So here are the signs that you need to detach yourself from someone. The first is inconsistency. Their care doesn't follow a pattern, it comes in bursts. You only feel a relief after moments of closeness, but everything in between in that relationship, you felt anxious. The second is the emotional imbalance. You're the one updating, you're the one initiating, you're the one who is always adjusting, over communicating to the point that you've been drained. And the relationship exists because you're the only one sustaining it. And third is, you're staying for the potential, not for reality. You're staying not for what's happening, but what could happen. The relationship lives more in your imagination than your actual experience. Fourth is confusion. You spend so much time trying to understand where you stand in their life rather than feeling secure in it. And their silence is louder than their entire presence. Fifth reason, the distance brings anxiety. The moment that they pulled out, they did not respond, they did not reply to you, give you so much anxiety. Suddenly, your brain is jumping into every conclusion, and that's a bad sign because you can really tell by how much a person gives you security when their distance doesn't bother you at all. Oh, they haven't texted me in a while. That's okay because I know for sure that they will come back and they will text me again. They have built a foundation of reassurance to you that it doesn't bother you if they were away for a while, right? But if they have started very rocky, very inconsistent, for sure it will give you enough reasons to be anxious all the time. None of this mean that the person is entirely bad. I'm not saying that they are bad people. I'm saying that the relationship is unstable. Unstable dynamics don't create attachment through intimacy. They create attachment to hope. And that's why detachment feels cruel at first because as if you're giving up on something that almost worked out. You're giving up on something that almost yours. And I'm also going to be very honest with you. Detachment isn't always the solution. Detaching yourself from a relationship the moment that it becomes inconsistent isn't always the solution. Because the moment someone becomes inconsistent to you, try to ask yourself, are they dealing with something right now? Have you stayed long enough with this person to know that they are dealing with something? That their inconsistency is just a phase, not a personality? Are they going through something in their life that they're not telling? That's why they're not updating you. That's why they are burnt out. That's why they're so overwhelmed, even with the healthy relationships before. They are allowed to be inconsistent the moment that they're dealing with something. Best believe inconsistency are like phases in relationship, but shouldn't be a personality by someone. Not every relationship that's hard is meant to be abandoned. Some discomfort in the relationship will teach you about growth, of learning how to communicate, how to build boundaries, of repairing instead of escaping it. Detachment in relationship isn't the solution, but it's necessary when the inconsistency becomes the norm, when the inconsistency becomes a habit, when the inconsistency becomes a personality and not just a phase alone. And detachment is necessary when effort stays one sided, when clarity never arrives, and when the relationship only survives on your tolerance. Detachment begins when you focus yourself on patterns and not on memories. You see, the memories that you have for someone is emotionally charged. It tells you about the moments that you felt alive about them. But patterns, they tell you the truth. They tell you the reality, what actually exists, what their behavior is now. Potential is seductive because it promises relief without requiring change. It allows you to be emotionally invested over and over again. When you keep on returning on memories, you're becoming loyal to the past. But when you are focusing on the patterns, you're becoming clear with the present. That's the hard part of detaching yourself because you had very good memories with someone, but the present, it's not supporting you at all. This is a lot harder because you're letting the potential die. You're letting your hopes die out of respect for the reality that's in front of you. Letting go of the potential doesn't mean that you stop caring. It only means that you have become honest that this relationship is no way out. This relationship has no hope. This relationship will never be consistent. And the moment that you found that out, it hurts like hell. This type of detachment doesn't need closure. Okay? Some relationship you might need closure. Some endings, they will give you the closure, they will give you the answer. You'll never really get closures from situationship because it will always strive from what ifs, from potential. In order to survive some of the relationship, you don't need closure from every relationship that you need to move on without seeking for explanation from someone, without receiving any paragraphs from them. Never let anyone be in charge of your healing and your peace when you can just easily walk on away. Prioritize your peace over the chemistry that you once felt with them. You are detaching yourself from them not because they're bad people, but because they are uncertain. There were moments that you felt alive, but there are also moments that you felt so anxious because you are unsure of their treatment. That is not a healthy relationship. In fact, that's even worse than a toxic one. Allow the peace and allow the calm to be more important than the chemistry that you once felt with them. It's okay if you can't distance yourself from that person, but please distance yourself from their uncertainty. The bravest thing that you can do is to stop assuming almost as something that's real. Stop making almost a relationship. There is a reason why it never became a real thing. The very obvious one I know for sure is that you deserve better. You, my dear, deserves better. There's a reason why it never became a thing. It never became a true love. It's because you are meant to have the real thing where you don't second guess, confuse, justify, lie to yourself and lie to your friends about this person. But here's the fun part: detaching yourself without expecting closure. Okay? And the reason why we're doing that, it's because we're not trying to be bitter, we're not trying to be toxic, we are trying to protect ourselves. And protecting yourself shouldn't always make sense with other people. It might come off that you just cut off someone, but the truth of the matter is you were there. You were fighting all along. You were staying all along. You were there. You were sending paragraphs. You were consistent to them. That the moment that you cut off ties with them, they wondered. They felt confused. Because why? They never once tried to hear you. They never once tried to understand you, where you're coming from. They only see your absence, but not your presence. The grief that you're feeling is the price you pay for finally letting go and for finally chasing clarity.